Welcome to Showboys, a podcast that delves into the world of film and TV. Hosts Nick and Mike take their water cooler talk from the office to the web as they discuss their favorite movies, shows, and all other content in between. In this week's episode, the boys are joined by the Scene Snob himself, Mick Manhattan, and chat about their preferred method of storytelling between movies or shows and what the future holds for movie theaters and streaming. So, what's watching? Welcome to another episode of Showboys. My name is Mike, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host Nick. How you doing tonight, Nick?
I'm doing wonderful, Michael. How are you?
Great. I'm actually super excited. We have a very special episode tonight. We are joined by a fellow podcaster and, dare I say, a new friend, host of the Scene Snobs podcast, Behind the Box podcast, The Showcase, Scene Snob interviews, Scene Snob reviews, Pulling Focus podcast, the Nick Fury of the Scene Snobs channel, the snob himself, Mick Manhattan.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I brought my eye patch and everything.
Man, I gotta say that was a lot of shows, and that's like, I feel like not even like half of the shows on the Scene Snob channel.
Yeah, that's about half, maybe. I think we're at 15 now, and I have meetings next week for 3 more. And I'm not saying that boastfully, like big king. Can I curse on here or no?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not king shit or anything. Very fortunate with everybody. Everybody's so talented, and just when they come to the channel and request to be on, I just. I just feel very fortunate.
You're like the Netflix of podcasting.
I'm trying. I definitely have that type of talent, but I'm no Netflix right now.
Yes, but so I had met you through a podcasting group on Facebook, and started watching your Tuesday night show, the Scene Snobs podcast. I don't know, maybe a month or two ago or so, and just really enjoyed the show that you guys were putting on. I'm not sure if Casey was back at that time or not, but I was super entertained. I loved what you guys were doing on Tuesday nights on your live stream, and then we had been chatting back and forth about podcasting stuff and whatnot, and yeah, I really wanted to, get you on the show and just kind of, see what led you into podcasting. I had heard on your show that you've worked in the film industry, and, kind of wanted to pick your brain about that too. And also just give you, the little exposure that we're able to with our podcast, just to, make people aware of your show and your channel and all the stuff you guys got going on. So I guess my first question here would be, what got you into podcasting?
Well, at first I want to say I appreciate you guys having me on. This is amazing. I love your show. You guys are killing it. You guys have a very cool vibe about you. I love your topics. True geeks through and through, for sure. And so I'm, Mike. Yeah, we met through the group, and then you've always been very supportive when you join in on the shows and in the discussions with us. So I appreciate that. Always we love having you on. But yeah, I just this is fantastic. I thank you so much for having me on tonight.
You bet, man. And nobody can see me right now, but I'm blushing a little.
No,
Well, it is. You guys got a great show here. Seriously,
Thank you. Thank you.
appreciate that.
What got me into it? I kind of fell into it a little ass backwards. I had no idea what podcasting was. It was about, I want to say 10 years ago now. And I had grown so tired. I was living in Los Angeles at the time. I was working as a producer, in the film industry. And I got really tired of it. I wanted something different. And I still enjoyed the producing, still enjoyed working, but you kind of get burnt out when you do it for years at a time for so long, just because everything is just always a new job. You're always kind of going on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I need a break. And I moved back east because that's where I'm from Jersey. And I was working in New York City at the time. And a buddy of mine from high school goes, "Hey man, I started a website. And, I always knew about the movie review sites and things like that. And I've been writing for a long time at that point. So I was like, all right, I'll write for you. And, in my downtime, I'll help you, produce your stuff, your videos and stuff like that. No problem." I needed that. I needed to like come down to a level where it was just like, not everything was riding on it, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that budget and everything. I was like, all right. So he was like, "Listen, I love doing this, but I don't know how to run anything. I don't know marketing. I don't know, especially social media marketing." And at the time, social media marketing was really nothing. Nobody thought to do it. Like Facebook, only a few years before, became like open to people not in college. So it was Twitter was like the big thing at that point, and it wasn't as evil as it is now. But
it's turned into quite the cesspool lately.
it really has. And you still need it, but it's just like I only try to post, very very few things. But I went, it was called MarioLikesMovies.com. He had started this with some friends, and it was starting to gain a little traction. And I just jumped in. I was like, all right, submerged myself into how to do social media marketing and all that. And he was like, "I want to do a podcast." And I'm like, "Well, what the hell is that? I'd never heard of it before." And he was like, "We just sit in front of mics and we talk about stuff. We talk about movies." Okay, I can do that. And so like a radio show. And
Nice.
it took off. Mario Likes Movies was the first podcast I joined.
That's awesome. So you guys were reviewing movies on the podcast too, or was that just kind of what you're doing writing wise for the website?
Well, I was reviewing movies and I was writing, different news topics, things like that for the site. The podcast, there was only one on the channel at the time, and it was really, they just picked out like terrible movies and reviewed one each week. They'd watch and
That's
review.
awesome.
And I was like, and at the time, like I didn't hear anything about that. I didn't even know what podcasting was. So I was like, all right, I'm in. Let's do this. I got an offer to come down to Virginia and do, because I got pretty good at doing the marketing, the social media marketing. So I got a position down here for a tech firm to start doing digital marketing. So I was like, all right. So my brothers lived in Virginia. I loved it down here. I was like, I'm in. I need a change anyway. Moved down here, loved it, still love it. Started doing that, and then a good buddy of mine, Casey, who also at the time was doing podcasting. He had a internet radio station called Off Topic Radio, and I had guested on there in 2011, 2012 a few times, just to talk about the film industry and things like that. So I moved down here. He had left Off Topic Radio, him and another guy, and they were like, "We're starting our own. Let's all host. We're all friends. Let's do it." And that was Mystery Elephant. The Mystery Elephant podcast lasted 5 years.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it got pretty big for a while there. We were at towards the end, and it took a few years to get there, but I'd say about 2 years in, we were at about 10,000 downloads a month. And then by the time we finished, like we had sponsors, everything, 100,000 downloads a
Oh
month.
wow.
And we were syndicated on other channels and such. But I didn't control anything. All I did was the social media marketing, and I was just a host. It was one of the other guys who did it. He went through a bad divorce. He kind of just, sometimes people go through that and their minds get a little out of whack. And he was just like, we're done. We're not doing it anymore.
Logical.
I was so mad.
Shut down.
I was like, I couldn't be too mad at him because I was like, I get it. Like you're going through something, but I was like, we are really like doing well, and you're cutting our legs out from under us. And that's when I was like, no, I'm not doing this for anybody else anymore. I'm going to build my own. So
nice. So that was the birth of the Scene Snobs.
That was the birth. Well, all right. There's a little. I always liked writing movie reviews, and the real birth of the Scene Snobs started in 2012 on Facebook. All I would do is watch a movie I'd never seen before, old or new or whatever, and just review it on Facebook, just a written review. And that lasted for years. And I was like, I need to start doing videos. So I started doing that. And then and then leaving Mystery Elephant, I was like, I'm going to take this, start doing my own podcast channel. So I'm my own boss. I control everything. I don't have to worry about anything. And just kind of take it from there. And that was the birth. It wasn't the Scene Snobs at the time. It was called Movies 365. So, and then after that, I was like, I got to get rid of this name.
So, I will say I really enjoy the name, the Scene Snob.
Well, I appreciate that. I was trying to go with something that was the antithesis of what I wanted the channel to be. I don't want the channel to be actual snobs.
Right.
But, when you hear it, you're just like, oh, God, it's those guys.
That's what you want, though.
Yeah. So isn't it crazy, though, just like how podcasting has taken off, though? Like,
oh, yeah. Yeah. It's so many people are doing it now. Especially after 2020, when everybody's home, they're like, start a podcast.
Hey.
And there's nothing, there's nothing wrong with that. It's, if you have the talent, there are some people who it's just not for them, and they'll find that out. You don't have to tell them to stop. Like, go right ahead, do it as long as you want. If it's just therapeutic, have fun.
I think that's that detail there is very apparent when you start doing it, like we have this year, and you kind of realize how easy it is, but it's not easy for everybody. Just because I know a lot of people that, would or could or want to do it, but there's just, I don't know, there's that step you have to take to like get into it, and then it just becomes very natural.
Yeah. It also takes time too. And a lot of people I find aren't willing to take that time.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting because, when you get down to the bottom line of podcasting, like 90% of the time, it's like friends, buddies, like it's basically like pulling up a chair at a restaurant or a bar, right, at someone's table and getting to listen to their conversation. But you find out that like there are, quote unquote non-celebrity people, right, that have valuable things to say and interesting and entertaining things to say. And I think that's kind of why podcasting has exploded as much as it has. But also makes it so interesting because you get to hear from people that you normally wouldn't get to hear from, right? Because before podcasting, it was like you have to get on TV or you have to, get on the radio. But like this whole the internet has opened up like a whole can of worms for, better or worse, but has allowed people and like content creators to create and put stuff out themselves for people to stumble on. And I don't know, I just think it's fascinating and kind of fun.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, and it's I think now, like what TV, like TV is a dying even movies to a degree are almost a dying medium. And I hate to say that. But it's of the form that it's in now is dying because we're getting something better. The streaming services are putting out actually top-notch stories, shows, movies, things like that really entertain. Whereas for a while, it seemed like it kind of lingered, and you were like, "All right, I can either go see this or I can go see this," but I'm not excited about either.
Yeah.
Because podcasting and videos are what people want now.
Yeah.
They don't, and they're proving that with Quibi. We don't want your Quibi pay millions of dollars for these stars. We want the stars we're making.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I've kind of like, I guess, stumbled down that like wormhole of content on YouTube of just like finding amazing content creators that are only on YouTube and only creating content on YouTube. And just like a platform like that, again, similar to podcasting, just opens up doors for people who might not, be afforded opportunities to create content otherwise. And I would say I probably in large part due to my desk job, watch probably the same amount of YouTube as I do like streaming services or movies. But yeah, we're in a fascinating time for content creation and what's available for us as viewers or listeners or consumers or whatever.
Oh, 100%. It's like I said, it's just choice now. We have so many choices. Like we don't have you were saying with the stuff that's streaming, like I know you guys are big on the Mandalorian and Cobra Kai and such. And these are shows you can finish in a weekend.
Right.
And that's fine. That marathon binge is great. And then you have the week to get through. And no, you can't binge watch a show. Like you don't have the time, whether it be work or just life in general. So YouTube's there or podcasts are there. It's a lot easier.
Right.
So
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're all good, man.
So the Scene Snobs podcast, as I learned Tuesday, has been around, since October of 2019. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was when we first started. That was the very first show on the Scene Snobs. Because if you go to the scenesnobs.com, it's like I said, I think we're at like 15 shows now, and then there's like 3 more coming next week. So it's like it's growing, and I'm super grateful for everybody. Like I said, joining in. Like they're so talented and so much fun, and I feel blessed that they want to join up with something I'm doing.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, and it's really cool to sit back and watch as someone who's a fan of the channel and stuff. Just seeing like more and more shows be added. At this point, like at least over the last week or two, it seems like almost daily, which is awesome. I think probably my favorite thing was when you guys had on your website that what was it? You're the MCU of unremarkable people or something like that.
Yeah, that's that got a lot of people stirred up too. They're like, "You're not unremarkable." I'm like,
yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, yeah, we're kind of unremarkable, but it's okay. Like,
it's a nice gesture to argue for you, being like, "No, you are remarkable."
Yeah,
it's very kind.
And it's just for me, like it's so therapeutic. I mean, during and just cathartic also. Like it's probably the best way to put it, especially with like 2020. Like going into 2019 was scary. I was like, I'm out on my own. I was like, every time I've done this, I've had people, who were running it, and I was just there, kind of helping along. And this was all me. So if this is, pass or fail, it's all me. So I got that rush of like being a producer again. That's like, this is all, if I fail, it's on me. And I went with it. It drove me. It gave me that motivation to kind of keep going. Like Casey was my partner for the first 2 episodes of the Scene Snobs podcast when it started. And he had some stuff going on in his life, and he didn't have the time, and like we kind of had a little bit of a falling out, and we talked about it even on air and such. Like he didn't kind of understand what I was trying to do. So I think at that time he was just like, I don't really get it, so I'm just kind of out. And there was no ill will, or I wasn't angry with him. I was just like, all right, well, I can't afford to be out. I need to make this work. So
right.
I just hosted shows for like the next, I think, 6 months on the Scene Snobs podcast by myself. And in that time, we had started 3 other shows, 4 other shows, I should say. And then I got tired of, on the Scene Snobs podcast, of talking to myself and just talking to the audience in general. So I started doing guest co-hosts. And every week was just somebody new coming onto the show with me. And, we would just sit there and we'd talk about like whatever's going on in the geek world and stuff. And Casey came back and like was commenting along. And I was like, dude, just come on as a guest co-host. And at that point, it was just like, dude, we need to be doing this. Like, I wanted to start this with you. I need you back, man. Like, come and host with me. So now he's back, and it's just been great, And like
the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, everybody that's involved in like the Scene Snobs shows, I've met along the way. Like I have no talents, no discernible talents in my life, but I have a skill for finding talented people and locking in and being like, not use you, but like I know where you'll best shine. And a lot of these guys and girls who have been coming on the show and stuff, like I was just like, come on, you be great. You're going to be perfect at it. They're unsure at first, and then they get into it.
Yeah. Well, hey, when you're trying to build an empire, that's a pretty handy skill to have for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like the one thing, even like in the entertainment industry, it was like, I need to make sure I can do this.
Right. I will say to your comment about like, all of your hosts and people that kind of pop in and out of the shows being people that you've met along the way. In my short, 3 or 4 months of doing this, that's probably been my favorite part so far, is just meeting new people such as yourself. And, like I was on I made a guest appearance on another show, the Be Hero Fights podcast, like in Halloween or something. And, meeting those guys, Tom and Brian, super cool dudes. And just, some of the people that I've met in, the handful of podcasting Facebook groups or whatnot. Just getting to meet and talk to people I never would have ever met or talked to before doing this has been super cool. But like, since you've kind of been podcasting for so long and have also a channel with tons and tons of shows on it, like what's been your favorite part of your podcasting journey?
Just doing it. I think I know that sounds sort of a cop out to your answer to your question, but it's just I have like crippling stage fright. I always have, ever since I'm a kid, and I never wanted to do it. And then I realized, like, if I wanted to get into the entertainment industry, not even I never wanted to be an actor, never wanted to do any of that, but I was like, if I want to get in it, I probably need to learn the acting side of it. And I forced myself to do like school plays. Like the first couple, like I couldn't even come out on stage. I was ruining the play. That's how bad it was. And I still feel that. Like I have to lay down before every show. And you guys know I have shows almost every day. So it's like I have to take like a 20-minute just in the dark, just lay down and kind of get myself hyped up to do it because I'm like nervous. But once I'm on and once I'm there and I'm talking to you guys, in the comments or whoever's on, it's just, it feels natural. And that's my favorite part. It's just being on. Like doing this with you guys now is so much fun for me. But I even laid down before I did this because I was like, I got to be on, you know?
That's funny because like you can't tell that you have stage fright or are nervous or anything in any of the episodes I've seen or heard. Yeah, it comes very natural for you. At least it comes off that way.
Well, I appreciate that. It was a long time of like training myself. I'll tell you that much. I was yeah. Even my wife is just like, "What are you worried about? You just did a show last night," and I'm like, "I know." It's like,
these guys are really intimidating.
I just every time it was just like, but I mean, it's like whereas it was literally crippling to the point where like I had to sit down, I was hyperventilating way back in the day. It's really just like lay down, put on some music for like 20 minutes, and then like I just kind of psych myself up and get into it, you know.
Nice. Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. So keep going.
I appreciate that. I mean, I am the least talented person on these shows, and I know it, but that's the true. I'm telling you guys this right now. This is the way to make it in any entertainment field. Surround yourself around talented people.
Yes, very much so.
Right.
And trust them. Yes. You don't know how many independent filmmakers I see, and I'm like, guys, stop writing, directing, producing, editing, everything yourself. Get somebody, collaborate, and trust them. Let them do it.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of these people, they just want to create, and they need assistance doing it, and you just need to fill a role. You don't need to hold their hands or any of that.
Most editors will tell you, like, or want to tell you at least, like, you know, shut up and sit down. Like, let me do my job. Like, I know what I'm doing.
Right. So, with all that being said, what was your role in the film industry when you were, in it? What exactly did you do?
Production manager and producer.
Okay.
I started out. Everybody goes to film school wanting to be a director, and I got into it, and I got into producing. I was like, this is where this is all I want to do. And I know for a fact when I went into film school, I had no idea what a producer was. I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna be a director. I guess a producer is just kind of like there, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and I just by the time I left, I was like, this is all I want to do. I was like, I don't care about directing anything.
Can you break down what a producer does for those of us who aren't exactly sure the ins and outs of a producer's role?
Well, I will start by saying, you know, the guys who get the Best Picture trophy,
mm-hmm.
Those are the producers, and they absolutely deserve that Best Picture trophy. They run everything right down to every minute little detail that goes on the set. So basically, you have an above the line crew and you have a below the line crew. The above the line crew consists of the producers, the directors, DP, anybody who's really like a figurehead in each department. And like the producers team, which is production manager, production coordinator, assistant producers, things like that. When you're producing, you acquire the script, you acquire the backing, you acquire everything, and you hire the crew. You find your director, you find everybody down the line. As a production manager too, you handle all of the budget, you handle all of the departments, all the hiring, everything. So like the production manager is essentially the second in line. I know a lot of people think it's like producer, director, and no, the UPM, as they call it, unit production manager, is where the line like is, for the producer. Like they handle everything that has to deal with all of those details I was talking about for the producer. And that's what I did. So I did that, and as a producer, like there were scripts that I would acquire, bring it to. I worked for a company called Gold Coast Productions. We worked out of Warner Brothers lot. We worked out of Raleigh Studios, CBS Studios, on different projects. And yeah, so I would acquire the scripts. If he, the owner of the company, sometimes he would write the scripts himself. But for the most part, I just kind of handled all the details after that. Like he would hand it off to me, and I was his trusted guy.
Nice. What inspired you or like led you into the film industry? Like what lit that fire?
I will tell you exactly what lit that fire. Jurassic Park, 1993. August 1993. I went and saw it on the big screen. It was the scene where the Brachiosaurus is eating. You see him for the first time. It's just that was one that, and even when I still feel that feeling that I felt when I was 11 years old, I was like, this is what I need to be doing. I need to make people feel like this. And
that's awesome.
Just entertained and feel like something that you're bringing something bigger than life, and now I'm not saying I made it there in that realm, but like in a small way, as I've grown, like I hope I do that, just to entertain at least. But that was where I flipped the switch. I went home that night and wrote a 90-page notebook, a screenplay, full feature-length screenplay called Jurassic Campground.
That's awesome.
And then I took my dad's VHS recorder and I shot scenes for Jurassic Campground.
That's so cool.
That awesome. That never went back from there. Actually, on the BTB podcast, Lenny is my high school friend, and he always wanted to be a filmmaker growing up. And we used to do a lot of videos. We both worked for video stores, and we would film like horror movies in them after hours.
That's awesome, man. So Jurassic Park, 1993, you said.
Mm-hmm.
I was 6 and have a very distinct memory of seeing that movie in the drive-ins and then having like horrific nightmares of dinosaurs for like the next week. Probably shouldn't have seen that when I was 6, but man, that movie was something else.
I mean, you probably got really built up on the Brachiosaurus scene, and then the movie took a turn in the direction it went, and then it got bad for you.
Yeah. Oh man. But it was that I also remember as a small child when I used to live in Florida back then, going to like some sort of museum that had like semi-realistic animatronic dinosaurs in it. And like because of Jurassic Park, like I was like I wouldn't even go in the rooms with those animatronic dinosaurs.
Well, don't watch Tammy and the T-Rex then. Yeah. I mean, every time I would pass by like a tree line, especially at night, while driving, I always imagine like a T-Rex head popping out when as a kid.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that sticks with you.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just something about like the effects were amazing, like at the time, it still holds up in my opinion. But so how long did you work in the industry before you came back?
Well, I always, even after I came back, I still worked in the industry. I was a consultant still at Gold Coast. I never lost that because Larry, God rest his soul, one of the best mentors I could have ever asked for. He was like, I'm not letting you go. He was like, I'm still going to consult with you about budgets and scripts and stuff. So like, I was still working for him, but he let me go back east where I needed to be. And I still worked on productions out in New York City.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, I never fully gave it up until I moved down to Virginia. And I was kind of burnt out on it. And I started getting more into the podcasting and I wanted to pursue that more. But for the most part, I started in 2000. I graduated high school and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be an actor. Only to get behind the camera. I was like, I saw that as a way to get behind. And so I took acting courses and, I mostly featured extra stuff in movies and stuff like that. But Nothing
sweet.
major. Yeah, I would be on set and I would just be standing behind the camera asking people questions.
That's so cool, though. I mean, I feel like that's what I would do. Like that's the side of film that really, I guess, appeals to me is like how it's made, like how it's written, all the nitty gritty details, the score, camera shots, stuff like that. So yeah, I think I understand. Did your time in the film industry help in any way with your podcasting journey?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, even running the Scene Snobs is producing. It feels the exact same way. The only difference is rather than having other producers work on it, it's really just comes down to me again. Which again is a good feeling. It's freeing. Like you can be nervous about it, but like as long as you kind of keep motivated and keep doing it, you can even lose your confidence. But as long as you don't lose your motivation, you're still good. But I attack it the same way I always did as a producer. I just stay as organized as I can, doing X, Y, Z, going through everything and all my planning and stuff like that. So yeah, it's
Nice.
it's pretty nice.
Yeah, that sounds like it would come in handy for sure. My last question here before I have you tell us about your channel and the shows and stuff, and before we move on into our topics for tonight, do you have any cool stories from your time in the film industry? You met anyone cool? Had any crazy like experience on set or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's not a brag. I'm mean, just every time on set, whether it be with a celebrity or just or even you're just hanging out with a grip or something, like there's always going to be some fun. There's always a lot of really good camaraderie on set. Let me think of a good one. Like celebrity wise, like when you live in LA, you throw a rock and hit a celebrity. And that's again not bragging in any way. It's just they're like cockroaches out there, man. You turn off the lights and they're everywhere. They're all right. I have a good one for you. Sean Young from Blade Runner and what else was she? Oh, Ace Ventura. Mm-hmm. Ace Ventura actually works in this situation. I was
greatest Jim Carrey movie. Fight me, Ace Ventura.
I'm not going to fight you on that, but I don't know that it holds up for me anymore. Like I'm not saying it's not a good movie. I don't know that it holds up. Just for me personally.
All right. Well, that was Mick Manhattan. It was nice. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to take away that statement, and I'm going to watch it again.
Okay, fair enough.
I always have to give it at least a fair shot. But I remember back in the day how great it was. Well, I worked on a movie. It was my first movie in Los Angeles. One of my best friends and his wife from film school were already living out there, and if you go to move out to Los Angeles, it's a rite of passage. You have to sleep on a floor for a while first before you have a room. And we were all doing that. We were sleeping on the living room floor of these other two people's apartment, waiting for them to move out at the end of the month so we can move into the rooms. It was just it was like a friend of a friend of a friend, and it was just working out that way. But I was working for Reader's Digest on a video series in New York City at the time, and I hated it. My job was to drive a 15-pass van around New York City, and it was just a nightmare. And I was just like, I need to get out of here. And my buddy called me up and he goes, "Listen, we're working on this movie. Come out to LA. You can stay on the floor with us. You'll be our roommate. And we'll get you a job on the movie." I was like, all right, cool. And that's just how it worked. I was like, all right, sayonara, I'm out of here. And I moved out west. And I went out there, little to nothing to my name, everything in my car until I got out to LA. I went out and I was a script supervisor on a movie called Signal Lost. I can't even tell you what it was. I think that it was about a family who was going through drama when a nuclear warhead or whatever is going to go off in the city of Los Angeles. That's all I got on that. What it was. It was a lot of fun people I worked with on that. We worked in like this big Hollywood mansion up in the Hollywood Hills for like 6 days straight, where they shoot porn for the most part, and porn stars live there.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's crazy. I figured that out when I was a script student, and I went to sit down to write my script, my shooting script, and I sat down on this purple chair at this pool table that had like tiger stripes felt, and I'm writing on it, and like one of the guys on the camera crew was like, "Dude, what are you doing?" I was like, "I just have to fill out some notes." He's like, "You're sitting. Look at the chair you're sitting in, and look at the table you're writing on." And I looked, and like, "Dale, this is porn furniture if I've ever seen one." And that was clearly the room that they allowed them to shoot the porn. I was like, oh, "God." But that's not the funny story. The funny story is we had been on set for 20 hours. We had all become friends. Sean Young, she's wonderful. She's kooky. She's a lot of things. She's very opinionated. I'll tell you that much right now. But she was a delight to work with. I'll tell you that. But by hour 20 of working on a film set, and you're exhausted, and we're at a dinner scene, and they're not getting it right, everyone just doesn't care. Everyone sort of just gave up by that point. I'm laying on the couch. I have a pillow over my face. I was like, I don't even care if anything in that scene is out of whack. I was like, let's just get this done. So she gives this huge impassioned speech. She's like, we do this for the art. We do this for the whole craft. And like, she's really passionate. She's got the troops listening. Everybody's there. I didn't budge. I'm still laying on the couch. But everybody else is listening. And she's really inspiring everybody, but you could just tell it's like it's just too long. And she finally finishes, and she goes, "So we need to sit down and we need to get this scene because this is what we do." And I lift the pillow off my face and I go, "The laces were out." She jumps up. She goes, "The laces were in." We were all.
Einhorn is Finkel. Finkel is Einhorn.
When I tell you that rejuvenated everybody, and we worked for another 2 hours with no problem, that was like the best feeling.
That's amazing.
That's one of my most fun stories.
That's great. So my wife lived a very sheltered childhood and was deprived of many classic movies growing up. So Ace Ventura happened to be one of the ones that I had to introduce to her 2 years ago. Classic.
Did it hold up for her? Did she like it?
Yeah. I think. I mean, she's about the most basic of basic white girls. So a lot of the things that I make her watch and force upon her are usually met with blank stares or scrolling through the phone. But I sure as heck enjoyed it watching it the second time with her.
I will tell you, I hope your wife is like my wife and doesn't listen to the show.
Oh yeah, we're covered there for sure.
Yeah,
too long.
It's not even too long. Like I could do a 20-minute show. My wife won't listen to it. Are you kidding me? And I don't blame her. She gave me the perfect response. I was like, "You don't watch the show tonight?" And she's like, "I never watch your show." She goes, "I live with you. I have to hear you talk all day, every day. I'm not doing it, when I don't have to."
Exactly.
Like, fair enough. I was like, I really can't argue with you there.
Yeah, very valid points for sure. So before we get on to our topics, why don't you just tell us a little bit more about your channel and some of the shows. Maybe I'll make an awkward and uncomfortable moment for you and make you pick your favorite child from the 15 shows that you have on the channel currently?
Sure. I'll tell you right now, the Scene Snobs podcast.
There you go. That wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be.
No, it's the first one. Like, listen, I love doing everything I do, but the Scene Snobs podcast is the baby. It's the flagship. It's like being a Star Trek fan and saying I don't like the Enterprise. We all know it's the favorite,
Right.
For me, with the scenesnobs.com is the best place for anybody listening. Like, go check it out there. All the links are on there, for every show. And we have something for everybody, whatever they like: sports, comedy, pop culture, geek. We're working on music right now, other stuff. So, we have one we call BTB Podcast, Behind the Box. Basically, the point of that is just to feel like you're one of the friends hanging out in a video store talking about movies. Yeah, and that's the vibe we're trying to give off. So like a lot of them are really fun. Like we got the Married Movie Challenge, which I do with my wife. Few and far between, but where we challenge each other to watch like really bad movies that neither of us want to watch, and then review them. And I just changed the format of the Scene Snobs reviews, which is a big thing for me. I started inviting professionals that are kind of connected to the movies we're watching in a way. So, like for Soul, I had a musician and songwriter on to kind of talk about that side of it. Yeah, for Tenet, I had a martial artist and editor on. So like you can talk about like those things. For Wonder Woman, I'm having a museum curator. And a woman, and she's a woman, so she could talk about the female side of point of view of it, what Wonder Woman is, and also talk about the pop culture artwork of Wonder Woman and what that stemmed from. We're going to be watching. I've seen it, but I'm going to be watching Promising Young Woman, and then I'm going to be talking to a rape survivor. Was going to bring her story to it, and just kind of talk about those things, those realistic things compared to the movies we're watching.
That's really cool. I've also noticed that you have a lot of directors and writers and those sorts from some like indie movies and stuff on your channel for the interviews, which have been really cool. I really enjoyed the one that I forget which show it was and which directors you had on, but the one where you guys tried to figure out who would survive the longest in a horror movie.
That was a fun one. That was Behind the Box, which we kind of rebranded into BTB Podcast. So basically, like Blaine Weaver is a director. He's an indie director that became friends with the site. In the beginning, like he gave an interview and like we just hit it off. And then Esham and Ian Nelms, they directed the brand new Mel Gibson movie Fat Man.
Great movie.
Yeah, it was one of my favorites of last year. And I talked to them. I interviewed them, and we kind of hit it off. And they're friends with Blaine. So I was like, why don't you guys all come on the show and we can plug the movies, but then we can just all kind of have fun and shit talk and talk about topics and stuff. And they were all for it. They're like, that's all we want to do. We get asked on interviews. All we want to do is talk movies.
Right.
And so they came on and I was like, all right, let's make games of this. Let's have fun with it. And we just had a really good time with that one. That was a fun one to do.
Yeah, it was really fun to watch. But yeah, check out scenesnobs.com. Like Mick said, they have a variety of different shows. Pretty much a show for anyone, especially if you enjoy film or movies. These guys have a lot of great insight. They're funny, entertaining. They live stream most of their shows, and that's probably my favorite part, to be honest, of the Scene Snobs podcast is getting to watch you guys do it live and, getting to chime in with, comments with whatever you guys are talking about. It's really cool. It's super interactive. And yeah, I mean, check these guys out. They're great. I love them. You should love them. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you're probably going to like their podcast way more. So go check them out. But yeah, so let's get into some topics here. Nick and I, a little while ago, kind of barely, glanced over this movies versus TV series topic, just because it would have extended our already like marathon podcast into like a never ending infinity podcast. But yeah, I wanted to throw this question up to you guys. As we'll go from the point of view as a consumer first. From a viewer's point of view, in your opinion, what is the more effective or entertaining form of storytelling? Do you prefer a movie or a series? So, Nick, let's start with you. Give Mick a break from talking. Let him catch his breath. We've been asking him tons and tons of questions. But yeah, what do you think, Nick, as a viewer? What do you prefer more, movies or shows?
Just like when we kind of started to touch on this topic, it's a tough one. And I would say for right now, I would say shows as a viewer, just kind of where I'm at and the things I like. Definitely more show oriented. An overall more cohesive experience, I think. Less shortcuts, if you will, less things to kind of like jab at that are detrimental to the things you like in a story, and more opportunity to kind of make it better. I think that's where I'm going to sit for now.
Okay. What about you, Mick?
That's a good answer, and I'm racking my brain with this one.
It's tough.
Yeah, it really is, because there's some solid television coming out. But I'm
subject to change. That's what I always say. On another episode, I'll change my opinion, maybe.
I feel like that's probably the best way to put it. But I will say movies for now.
Nice.
Especially independent movies. Like, there's so much really good stuff coming out on the independent world that I'm not against blockbusters. I'm not against. I love the MCU movies. I'm a geek when it comes down to it. But the indie movies are what keep everything original and fresh. Because there's so many of them. So I would definitely stick with movies, at least for now.
Yeah. Man. So
tiebreaker, no pressure.
I feel like, this is going to be probably a lame answer, but it depends. It depends. Like,
you can't say both.
On what is the story being told, right? Is a 2-hour movie sufficient to convey your story, or do I need 4 seasons of character development and like side stories and like all these crazy arcs and whatnot to fully get the best out of what you're trying to do? I will say similarly to Nick, right now it's shows, and I feel like it would be weird if we, just based off of our podcast name, Showboys, if we both picked movies. That'd be kind of funny. But yeah, I just right now, it kind of what you said earlier, Mick, about the level of shows that we're getting now by mainly by the streaming services. Most are right on par with like a theatrical release. Like, look at The Mandalorian. We use that as an example a lot. Just like the level of their special effects is right on par with like a blockbuster theatrical release, which is crazy. But you're seeing that. Go ahead.
I was going to say technically better because, they're now making movies with that same technology. like the new Thor will be filmed in that same manner. So
yeah, true.
They broke down a wall there that people are going to start adopting.
Yeah, that's a whole other story. Just the tech that they use, super interesting. But yeah, just the fact that we're getting that level of TV series, and these series extend 3, 4, 5 seasons long, so you're just getting like exponentially more content at the same level as a theatrical release, is always a positive for me. But of course, that has to be executed on right. You have to have a rich story to tell, or else all that the ancillary stuff is kind of meaningless. But all that to say, there are great stories told in movies that are amazing. Like you brought up Fat Man, that was one of my favorite movies too of last year. And even though I'm not like a huge Marvel fan, but just what the MCU was able to do through movies, they kind of made like a movie TV series, I guess.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I would say now it's probably leaning more towards shows for me.
That makes sense. I mean, I completely get it. And everything's just like really enticing right now, story wise. Like it's just like out there, so many out there things that I wish were in movies, but
right.
They're not quite. Like, I don't know how you get so many big studios who are like, go ahead, make this TV show and make it interesting and make it great. But when you make this movie, like, let's put some stuff in there that makes no sense.
Right. I'm gonna double down on my answer a little bit here based on some stuff you said, Mike. I mean, I might argue that it doesn't really even matter on the story you're telling. All right. So say you got a story that would fit in like a 2-3 hour movie. Go ahead and make that a 4-part, series and call it a day. Take some liberties with some extra time you have, the cadence of how that would play out. And a story written for a movie might make better sense as a 4-part series.
Yeah. Look at Blade. I think it's better as a 4-part series.
Right.
So, and I'm wondering, you look at all of these huge directors, these movie directors that are turning into TV shows now, especially like Mandalorian and stuff like that. You're going to get them probably sticking with TV for a good while.
Yeah, well, yeah, especially all that Star Wars stuff, all that. They're basically making the MCU and Star Wars TV series.
I mean, I think about the creativity that brings to directors, producers, and all that a series allows them to do that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do in a movie, because we can consume that content at this point, especially this year, more easily than we can a movie sometimes. And the structure of it just offers different types of creativity to happen.
Yeah. There is a place and a need for movies, though. Like there are some stories that need to be told in movie form as opposed to like series form, because some stories don't need to be expounded upon and have
right
hours and hours to tell, and just like I don't know, there's something about we'll get into this on the next topic about theaters versus streaming, but like there's just something about like going to the theater and like sitting in front of the screen and viewing a movie intended to be viewed in that way.
It's very true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. How about this, Mick, as from a creator's point of view? What would be more enticing for you? Like if you were presented with the option to like, here, you can make this movie or you can like turn it into a series, what would be more enticing for you?
Honestly, like when it comes down to it, it really depends on. Well, I mean, I'll tell you, just from a producing standpoint, if somebody came to me and was like, listen, you can take any idea that you have for a show and do it, that's more enticing because that's a lot of treatment. With a movie, you are constricted in a lot of ways, because you're like, all right, I gotta get this done. But like, if I have financial backing of a TV show, and I have I have a studio backing it, because like TV shows just aren't going to just be made, they're going to have some sort of backing in some way. But if I have that option on the table, yeah, I mean, I would take it. But like, if you're asking me as a creator, could I take anything movie wise that I've written or I have and just turn it into a TV show? Maybe some things, but not everything. So it would, if you're asking me from a creative standpoint of something I'm holding, like if it's not meant to be a show and it's meant to be a movie, then it would depend on that. But if you're just telling me like, all right, we want you to create a show for us, yeah, that would be the more enticing thing to do.
Yeah, so let's say you start with a blank slate and they're like, you can make a movie or a show.
Right now, a show. Because there's ideas for both. And like I said, that I couldn't cross over with some of them. Some of them were just like, no, that would make a better movie than it would a show or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Also, starting out, there's something to be said to be starting out with TV shows, things like that really shows what you can do. You have a little more freedom, or if you mess up in one episode, but your next episode is great, that little mess up in the episode before, people don't tend to remember that.
True.
But yes, you mess up in a movie, people are going to remember. It's because it's that standalone effect. Let's face facts. Not every episode in The Mandalorian was great, or
right,
high or any. Like, there were episodes that were just like, all right, it's a little dull.
Yeah, but you definitely got your fillers. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but then every other episode is great. You're like, that filler was just fine though.
Yeah.
So it's you just got to make a good show.
Yeah, it's just I guess about striking a balance between, how much time do you need to tell your story? Like, it's kind of like a pointless question, I guess, as we get to the bottom of it, right? Because it all depends on the story you're trying to tell. If the story you're trying to tell doesn't call for 30 hours of content, like obviously a movie is going to be better. But yeah, I just wonder, as like a writer, like what would be more fun to do, like to sit down and develop something so long, like to be able to use the length of a show to like have breadth and like build an amazing world and like develop several characters very in depth, and like character relationships and like story arcs and stuff. Sounds super enticing, but also could be kind of overwhelming. Yeah, well, I guess at the end of the day, I don't know the answer to that question.
One thing that, I mean, and this has been done, and it's not always very direct, but people do it in very clever ways. And this is what I think shows lend themselves to obviously more flexibility. So you have a season, right? And the whole thing is a certain pace. It builds up a certain way. And then the finale, is this hour, it's a longer version of the episode where it's almost like a movie, or the last 3 episodes are a 3-parter and it is basically a movie, so you have a 10 episode season. The first 9 are an hour long, and then that last one's like a 2-hour movie essentially. So you kind of can do both.
True. Think about the first thing that comes to mind there is the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars, basically, just because I just finished watching it. But
right. Well, they changed everything. They changed the intro. They changed the pacing of it. Yeah, that's a really good example. I feel like Mr. Robot was like that a little bit too. Wasn't the last episode, the finale, like extra long and extra great?
We can talk about that in a second. What were you gonna say, Mick?
No, I was just gonna, kind of go on to Star Wars because I know Star Wars kind of ventured into it recently, and you had never seen it before. I just wanted to get your opinion of everything.
Oh boy!
I know I've heard the show and such, but like just while I'm here, because Star Wars is such a something I love so much. So when you said you were watching it for the first time, I was like, it was so amazing to me.
Yeah. Oh man, it's been a trip. That's for sure. So I have recently finished Clone Wars. I kind of like slammed through the last 2 or 3 seasons of that in like 2 weeks. And what I just mentioned there about the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars, that could literally be a movie. Like those last 4 episodes are a game changer, and they were so different from the rest of the show, and like it just had a completely different tone and feel, and made me feel things that like I didn't know I could feel while watching Star Wars. But yeah, I've loved the story so far. I've seen the prequels, Clone Wars now, Solo, Rogue One. I'm 3 episodes away from finishing season 3 of Rebels. I've seen both seasons of Mandalorian. Excuse me. And then like I saw the original trilogy when I was a little kid, so like the details are fuzzy, but like I know all the like main Star Wars pop culture references and stuff. But yeah, I've been enjoying what I've seen so far. I love how it's basically like politics and space so far, up to what I've seen. It's just like, oh, the Senate, they're good and not good, and then now they're evil. And yeah, the Clone Wars was super cool. Rebels has been awesome. Whenever I like get into something, it completely overtakes my life, and like I really get into it. So thank God I've never like gotten into drugs or like drinking or anything, because I'd probably be in like a ditch somewhere dead. Like
move to LA.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a very addicting personality, so yeah, I've been addicted to Star Wars and loving every second of it, and kind of kicking myself in the pants for putting it off for so long.
You got the feeling though, and that's what's important.
Oh yeah. Yep, I'm here. I'm here to stay, in it for the long haul, good or bad. And what a time to get into it because of all of the crazy announcements that they made at Investors Day this year. Like there's so much stuff coming down the pipes.
So much stuff, Jesus. I mean, if you're gonna make anything, like I kind of had a change of heart with it. Like if you're gonna make anything and you're gonna really go all out making things in a universe, it's got to be something like Star Wars or MCU or things like that. Like that's where you really should be experimenting and putting out as much as you can.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like we've talked about on past episodes, a lot about Star Wars, obviously recently, but just like the ability to build that universe, like that's insane. Like so much creativity, and like same thing with Lord of the Rings and Middle Earth and all the stuff that Tolkien has built.
That's the next one up.
It's just it's mind-blowing that people are able to create stuff like that in so much detail. Obviously those 2 franchises have been around for decades, so like it's had a long time to stew and be built upon, but like it's crazy that there are people that are that creative.
That's for sure. So are there any franchises that you guys would love to see like built on that maybe hasn't been touched in a long time?
Oh, that's a great question. In a long time or not at all. Do you have any off the top of your head while I'm thinking?
I would like to see Amazon go bananas with Lord of the Rings. And just kind of expound that to the nth degree. Just because the stuff is there. And then not at all. I would really like the Warcraft universe to be fleshed
That's
out
a great point.
in film and TV. That would be the one.
Nice. A great choice.
That is a great choice. There's so, like we've talked about this a ton of times. There's so much in Warcraft. Like it's all there already. Like
yeah,
just take it and run with it.
What did you say? An expansion would be a season or its own series?
Yeah, exactly. Like it could be its own TV series. There's just so much there. It's insane. Mick, do you have any off the top of your head while I'm thinking?
Franchise wise, good question. So everything I'm thinking about now has been done to death. I'd be okay, and I know this is blasphemy in a lot of ways, but like, I'd be okay if they redid Indiana Jones with somebody new, and really just open that universe up. Because there are interesting characters they never really went too in depth with.
Like maybe with, I don't know, maybe someone like Chris Pratt.
No, actually, when I heard that, I did not want Chris Pratt at all. He's too goofy. If you remember, Indy is pretty stoic. It's everybody around him who kind of adds the level. Even in the third one,
yeah,
he's still the hero. He's just surrounded by people who are kind of haphazard. And for me, if you're going to get somebody today to play that role, I'm going to go with. All right, I don't know if I want to do this, but I would either go with a Chris Hemsworth, who is my favorite Chris. He's good looking. You need that good looking, but he can be rugged.
Yes, very.
He can be funny, but like I said, in a stoic way. Like he can crack jokes.
Yeah.
But you never feel like he's the fool in the room. Even in Ghostbusters, when he was playing the fool, I'm like, he's still too good looking for that, I guess. Or I would love them to start off with maybe a young Indiana Jones and maybe get somebody like a Tom Holland.
Yes.
He's great. Grow into it, or if you decide to jump forward, you can get somebody else who kind of, and just build out from there.
What do you think about, just because you like Indiana Jones and it sounds like you have a pretty good understanding of that larger universe? Would you support them recasting Indiana Jones and just still focusing on the character Indiana Jones in that timeline, or would you support him having like a protege and then that person going forward as the new centerpiece? Then like Harrison Ford plays the mentor.
It's like a Batman Beyond Indiana Jones version.
Yeah. Or they're not. Yeah.
I love the idea of that, but because they tried it to a degree with Shia LaBeouf in the fourth one, and it just doesn't work in any way, shape, or form. I think you just got to recast Indy. And then, but I feel like if you recast Indy and you start this universe over again, you can add characters like Marion. Why didn't we see her for 3 movies? She was a great character. I feel like if bring her in, and you know what? Now that we're talking about it, I'd love to see it as a TV show again.
I was just gonna say that would do it.
And then you can follow Marion on an adventure for an episode or something, because she was a great character. And if you cast the right, young actress to play alongside whoever's playing Indy, because she has to be a lot younger than Indy. That's just what it was. You can follow her around because she goes on adventures and does stuff. And there's Sala, Martin, there's some really fun group that you can do. All the stuff with Father is a season.
It's a pretty great idea. I think you're onto something there.
Yeah, but they don't pay me anymore, so Hollywood can't have
it. So while you guys were talking, and you kind of talked about potential reboots, and I'm looking around my room here and all my Funko Pops and crap. Being a big DC fan, I would love for the DC EU to not be developed and ran by Warner Brothers, and maybe a competent studio that can get the right people in place to not have what happened happen. So that would be my reboot or fixing of a franchise. As far as I guess my idea for a new franchise isn't that far from my idea I just said, but I would love to see something live action with the Justice League Dark. I love the Justice League Dark. So you have Swamp Thing and Constantine and Zatanna and all those crazy characters that are not very popular, but they have really cool stories. And I know they had the Keanu Reeves Constantine movie, and they're making a sequel allegedly, and we had the Constantine TV series that ran for a season, I think, and we had what was it, CW, or was it the DC streaming service live action Swamp Thing that got canceled after a season, even though it was pretty sweet. I would just like to see something done with those characters because they're fascinating to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to argue with Nick's Warcraft idea though, because there's just so much there, and being a former WoW head, I would love to see that. But also, Mick, your idea about Indiana Jones, and then you brought up Tom Holland, made me think of Uncharted, my favorite, one of my favorite PlayStation games, franchises. I know video game adaptations, have pretty much all fallen flat on their face, but I'm kind of excited about, the Tom Holland as Nathan Drake in the upcoming Uncharted movie that's being made now, and hopefully that can succeed and they can build on that franchise, because I think that kind of inadvertently plays into your Indiana Jones idea. Because let's face it, Uncharted is a ripoff of Indiana Jones. So,
and it's going to turn into Indiana Jones.
There you go. Maybe that's Uncharted's just the prequel to Indiana Jones. You heard it here
first.
Well, even that, for a younger generation, they know Uncharted a lot better than Indiana. So, I kind of get it.
True. It's true. So let's head into the next topic here, so we don't keep Mick here all night. So the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, you being a big movie guy, and myself being a big movie guy, what do you think about the current state of the cinema, due to the pandemic? Do you think we'll have a rebound, and when COVID starts to clear up, whenever that may be, will theaters be the theaters of old, or are we starting to see the theater kind of die off to this newfound streaming technology and things like WB and HBO Max are doing, and Disney Plus kind of doing with releasing movies basically straight to streaming? What do you think?
I think that you're right when you say movie theaters of old, but going back a longer way. I'm talking 20s, 30s, 40s, where it was we're going to lose a lot of theaters. Theaters aren't going to be as important to studios after this. It's sad, but I also think it's kind of a blessing for the independent filmmaker, and I'm hoping I see this change. And when we finally get back into it, studios are they're gonna, let's face facts, they're gonna be happy with streaming. They're still making money, they're still getting people, and if they can release their movies like HBO Max with Warner Brothers or Disney Plus, like you said, their movie, you're gonna see maybe a few studios merge that aren't gonna make it or aren't teamed up with other streaming services, or the remaining ones will team up with Netflix. But when it comes to theaters, they're never going to fully go away. But I think theaters, and also to a degree, I'm hoping theaters become an event again. Back in the day, it was an event. You could go there, and it was a night out. And it's just not like it hasn't been like that for a very long time, and I think it was being taken for granted. And this is going to kind of be the wake up call. Like, I know my theater has been open since July here in Winchester, Virginia. They have taken all the steps. They've done what they have to do. They put in new atmosphere, like air unit, so that way it completely reinvigorates the air system or something like that. And it's like 99.9% effective against COVID. So like they're going to have to take steps in a lot of ways like that. But I've seen maybe like 4 or 5 world premieres at this Winchester, Virginia theater, because it's one of the only Alamo Draft houses that are open. It's one of the only chain theater stores that are open in the country. And so people were coming to them and saying, listen, we want to premiere our movie here before it goes to streaming because we want to put it in theaters. And it would play there for like a week or two.
Nice.
But it was an event. When you went, like they had the red carpet rolled out. They had the, backdrops for the pictures and things like that. So, and I'm not saying every time you go to a theater it should be like a world premiere, but like even when I go see a movie there, they're showing old movies, so you're getting that feel. And they're showing, what do you call it? Independent films that you really can't find anywhere else, or are getting overshadowed by these big movies coming out on streaming.
Right.
So I would like to see it become a place that's A, more of an event, B, really helps out independent filmmaking, and C, still plays the classics.
Yeah. That going to the theater has been, well, okay, so we live in Ohio, right? Not much to do here. We don't live in, we don't live in Columbus. We don't live in Cleveland. So we just live in small town, Northeast Ohio. Not much to do around here. But we do have 2 theaters. Like, I don't even think it's probably like a half mile from each other, which is kind of funny. And so like, when my wife and I were dating, before we got engaged, through our engagement and all the way up until before we had kids, like our main source of entertainment was going to the movies. And it's something that we loved to do and did very frequently. Have so many fun memories. Like the one of our 2 theaters used to be a discount theater. So I don't know if they have any of those around you, but basically, after a movie would leave the regular theater, it would go to the discount theater for like $1.25 or $1.50 a ticket and stay there for like a month or 2. Like one day, Becca and I went and saw 3 movies back to back to back and spent like $9. And it was amazing. It was super fun. But just like memories like that, or, the first time we took our daughter to the theater, she was like 3 or 4, and we saw Moana. And, our youngest daughter just got to go see her first movie, I think, when Trolls 2 came out. which was, post or like still in COVID times. But like it's a big thing for our family. It's a main source of entertainment for us, and like our kids love movies and love going to the theater. So, yeah, I kind of hope that streaming doesn't wipe out the cinema. Like that would be so sad.
Oh yeah, no, and again, it's wipe it out. I don't believe that it'll ever wipe it out, but I think it will wipe out a big portion of it.
Yeah,
just theaters in general, and you're always going to have one near you. I think maybe not as convenient as like going around a block, but there will be one to travel to. But like I said, that's when it becomes an event.
right.
They're going to get people out there, and I'm kind of hoping for that because I think that, like I said, I think they've been taken for granted for too long. I've been hearing too long since streaming started that it's not going to stick. Things like that. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, yes, streaming's going to stick. That's the future.
Right.
So
yeah, and Nick just sucks because he doesn't go to the movies. So,
and
Yeah.
then you have people like that, which I'm not. That's not a judgment.
no, judge him hard.
No, I agree with Mick. I'm waiting for the resurgence of the 20s and 30s esque type of theater, where it is an event. And to me, that's one of the good things about COVID is it has nuked a good chunk of the excess that we were used to in this country, especially where, the theater was just, especially like Tinseltown, right? By us, Mike. You'd go there on a Friday night and the thing is just packed. There's people everywhere. It's just about grabbing your popcorn and, getting in the theater, and it's just a disaster, right? I would like to see that become more of a special night out and a more orderly type of thing. That would be appealing to me because that was part of like the thing I did not like was just the madhouse that it could be.
True.
Yeah.
You got a point there.
I remember my grandmother always telling me stories, like about her mother dragging her to the movie theaters every Tuesday night or something like that. She was like, it was ladies' night, and my grandmother would go and she would take me, and she would go, and I'm speaking for my grandmother, but she would take her. They'd go to the theater, and they would give out a piece of china to everyone that came and stayed for the movie. And so if you went every week, you could have a whole set of china, and she did. They were poor, it's the 20s, it's the 30s, it's that time.
That's pretty awesome.
And that's movie theaters got you to go out and do that. And they had ladies' nights and they had men's nights where you can go and you can get a beer and stuff like that, and matinees, and that really meant something. Like going to see the new Creature feature in the 50s or the new Western or something in that matinee was just that meant something, and you were getting 2 or 3 movies with it.
Yeah. So I wonder, do you think theaters will get to the point to where drive-in theaters are now, where like they're that scarce?
Yes and no. Like there's still more, but I think you're going to see a lot more drive-in theaters pop open, and I don't think that popularity is going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, man. Now talk about an experience. That's an experience.
Yeah,
the drive-ins are awesome.
Yeah, this summer we have one in the next town over, and I was there quite a bit. I saw a bunch of movies. I saw Jaws finally for the first time on the big screen. I'd never seen it on the big screen before at the drive-in theater this year.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's kind of funny. So the discount theater I was telling you about, right, like literally right before the shutdowns and COVID hit, got remodeled into a bistro theater.
Oh no!
Like, no joke. Like, I don't even think they finished the remodel before all that stuff happened.
I think they're open like a week. I swear,
Yeah.
it was something ridiculous.
Super bad luck. It's still like open now, but like, I don't really know what's going on with the theaters by us because Like, I don't think the bistro theater is open every day, because I'll drive
No.
by and there's like, it's completely empty, but then like 2 days later I'll drive by and there's a bunch of cars there. So I think they're like, they have limited, availability, I guess. But it made me so sad, because I was like, hey, that's kind of cool. Like, we have a bistro theater now. We're moving up in the world. But I haven't had a chance to go try it out yet, which makes me sad. But we have been back to the theater twice, I think, since COVID. And no, once we took our daughters to see the new Croods movie around Thanksgiving.
How was that?
It was interesting. There weren't many people there, obviously. But I mean, it was just fun to get back. It was our youngest daughter's first time in the theater, I think. And our oldest, so they're 3 and 5. Our oldest has been a handful of times and like loves it. And our theater is right next to a Walmart that we go to all the time. We're terrible people and shop at Walmart. But every time we drive by, they're always like, the movie theater, I want to go to the movies. And we had to, obviously for months, we're like, we can't go because, the sickness, they're not open. Like, we got to be safe, blah, blah, blah. So we finally got to take them on Thanksgiving break, and they were like so excited. And I was secretly so excited too, just as excited as them. Cause I'm like, I'm back. I feel at home. Thank you. But I haven't had a chance to get back yet. Which sucks, because there's been a handful of movies I've wanted to see. I just haven't made time to go see them yet. But
it's tough. It's a tough time right now. So I mean, I get it.
I kind of expect maybe movie theaters to evolve into kind of like the frequency of like record players, if that makes sense.
Because
like
only hipsters use them.
Yes and no, like a very specific crowd, right? Maybe they're movie hipsters. Like, you would be definitely one of those people, Mike. But like the fact that records have made a resurgence to where, the bookstore has records, right? Most like Target has records, and you can find records in a lot of places. Obviously not a giant selection, but they're kind of back in a certain way. So I feel like, movie theaters, they'll become more scarce, but they will be more specialized.
Yeah. I will say, to Mick's point earlier about the indie films in theaters, like, I would love to see more indie films in theaters. And like, the thing that I thought was going to happen when the discount theater changed to the bistro, which is now like a regular theater but with a restaurant in it, I was hoping that, because these two theaters are literally like a stone's throw away from each other, that they wouldn't be playing the exact same movie selection, and that maybe the bistro one would have, slightly more artsy or indie films playing there. And then like, if you wanted to go see all the mainstream crap, you could go to Tinseltown. But no, my dreams were crushed, and they show the exact same movies. I'm like, I hate this so much.
Well, that was the excess, right? There, for some reason, it was justified to have two theaters. The only difference being one serve food, one doesn't, and that was enough to still maintain people coming. Right? That's the excess of what our culture was.
Good point.
What will it take for more indie films to break into, the mainstream theaters, Mick?
They just need to be embraced. I mean, right now it's just there's no content, so that leaves the door open for them. I'm telling you, if 2020 was a normal year, no pandemic, no quarantine, no nothing, and you were getting all of the movies that were out, Fat Man would not be as popular as it is. Fat Man was an indie film.
Very true.
And that's not to say that it still wouldn't be a great movie, and film fans would love it, but it would be overshadowed by all of the crap that comes out over it. Now that there's no content, I think people are starting to see indie films and being more impressed with them.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, obviously it sucks that it took a global pandemic for something like that to happen, but you're very correct, and it extends, kind of like to Nick's point, further than just, our little scope of film and movies and shows and stuff, but like even like local businesses and like people creating and selling things themselves. Like this whole thing has kind of changed society's perspective, right? To like look within, like look in their community, look what's local, look what's not produced by mega corporations, and you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there has been some good that's come out of this crazy, almost year.
Well, I mean, when things start to go back to normal, expect a lot of drop off in every field. Podcasting, think about it. Look how many people started a podcast with all of the downtime.
Right.
When downtime ends, there's going to be a lot of people who don't have time to do it, and I think that's that for every aspect. Like we are getting a lot of creativity kind of opening up in a lot of ways, but once the real world opens back up, it's going to be tough to, maintain.
True. It's a very valid point for sure. Let me ask you guys this. Personal preference, like what is more enjoyable for you movie watching? Like, do you prefer to go to the theater and experience that, or do you prefer to, just chill out on your couch in your boxers and, turn on, your Roku or, Fire Stick or whatever you use for your streaming services?
For me, I mean, both are enjoyable. Yeah, like I said, if I don't just go to the theater for anything, not anymore. I used to go and just see whatever was out every weekend when I was young, young, single, and free. But now, it's got to be something I really want to see, and it's got to be an event. It's got to be a fun night out, like I'm going with friends, or I'm going with my wife, or or whatever else. But other than that, I can stay at home and just relax and watch something.
I feel like I already know your answer, Nick.
You might be surprised. I prefer the movie theater.
What?
Because I favor movies less, each one that I choose to watch is more important to me. So typically the movies I like to watch, and I do go to the theaters to see, they are that much more impactful for me. Like, let's just take Star Wars, for example. I obviously go see all the Star Wars movies in the theater. That's an important occasion for me. It's always very special for me. And that is my most enjoyed movie experience, is always at the theater.
Ah, that is surprising to me.
I saw Interstellar in IMAX.
Oh, come on. That's
one of the most insane things I've ever seen and experienced.
Yeah, for go ahead, Mick. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
There's some things like you cannot avoid. You have to see it in theater.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I don't know, man. There's just something about being able to watch the movie, the way it was intended to be watched, right? And like I actually hate watching movies at home, even though like I buy a bunch of like Blu-rays all the time. Because I'm like a weird collector and like it. My wife makes fun of me and she's like, "Why do you do that? You don't even watch these movies. You're an idiot." I'm like, "You should know this by now. We've been together forever. Like, you chose me. Idiot. This is your fault." But yeah, like I mean, up until recently when I was forced to like watch movies from home because the theaters were not open. For me to watch a movie from home, it had to be like a comedy, or basically a comedy. Like if it's an action movie, if it's sci-fi, obviously, if it's a fantasy movie, anything with crazy visuals, like I have to see it on the massive screen with the crazy surround sound. Might also be because like I feel like I'm partially deaf, so like sometimes it's hard for me to hear stuff on my TV, but that's a whole other discussion. Yeah, there's just like a magic there for me, and because it's something that we did so much as a couple, a married couple, and like that I've done with friends, and now that I've done with my children, it just like the theater holds a special place in my heart, and I can't wait to like for it to become safer and more available and stuff. But I'll make do with the TV for now because that's all I got.
That's fair, and it's not a bad thing to have.
Yes. Man, I feel like there was something else I wanted to ask, but it has escaped me. Oh, this wasn't what I was going to ask, but I just remembered. Nick, you asked like about the movies and series about Mr. Robot. I don't know why. I just thought about this, but I figured I would answer your question, even though we kind of moved past that. The finale itself, I don't think was much different than any normal finale. It might have been like a 2-episode finale or something. But the thing that is so interesting about Mr. Robot is when Sam, came with the idea for Mr. Robot, like it was originally a movie, actually, and they decided to switch gears and turn it into a series. And after watching the series twice, because it's probably my favorite show of all time, so good, I don't know how they could have told that story in a single movie. So like, I don't really know where I'm going with this, but you gave me the opportunity to talk about Mr. Robot again.
That's why I did it.
So I'm going to take that and run with it, even though it was like a half hour after you asked. Have you seen that show, Mick?
Yeah, and I could see the concept being a movie of this guy, what he's going through, and like he's his father not actually being alive, and like his mental instabilities and stuff that he's dealing with. So I could see that being a part of a movie, but yeah, it was so much better being fleshed out as a TV show.
And that's because, a movie, say that was a 2.5-hour movie, right? At most you would have probably lend yourself a half hour, right, per season kind of thing. It's much better for that show to unveil itself after you've spent an entire season watching that show in a certain way, thinking certain things, and all of a sudden you're like, my life is a lie. What have I been watching this whole time?
Man, yeah. That's just a feeling I haven't been able to escape lately. Just not knowing what my life is. All these twists and turns and surprises thrown at me left and right. But yeah, there's something about what they did on Mr. Robot with their reveals that was just so cool.
Oh yeah, great writing.
Oh yeah, just like the whole prison season was amazing. Their like USA sitcom episode was amazing. But yeah, that's I will forever say nothing but good things about Mr. Robot. It's the best show in the entire world. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps up our topics here. I guess since Mick, actually you're our first guest on our show, so
I didn't know. I appreciate that.
Yes. So congratulations. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing for you, but it's been a great thing for us. I think I want to kind of start a tradition though with our guests. I shouldn't say you're our first guest, but you're like our first interview, a guest who isn't a friend, from our personal lives.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how I would challenge you on that statement.
Yeah.
I was like,
First official guest that is not a personal friend that I've known from other avenues of life. Awesome. But I want to start a tradition here with our guests and our interviews. A lot of our shows are titled "What's Watching," and the whole thought behind that was we're just going to talk about what we're watching. So I wanted to extend the question to you. Mick, what's watching, man? What have you been currently watching?
Recently, I finished up Cobra Kai, not last weekend, the weekend before. And then since then, I've been watching with my wife, Chuck, which was a personal favorite of mine, starring Zachary Levy as, he's just a geeky nerd herd guy, geek squad type guy who gets sucked into the world of spies.
What is that on? Is it on a service now at this point?
Yeah, it's on Prime now. It was 5 seasons. Nice. It was on NBC, I'd say about 10, I don't want to say 15 years ago, but maybe about 13 or so. And it was one of my favorites. I love that show. That's where he got his start on. What's his name? He played Jane in Firefly. Adam Baldwin is in it. Plays a great character in that. There's a few people here and there that pop up, but it's outlandish. None of it makes any sense, like in reality, but you just got to turn it off and just enjoy it. It's like a nice, fun adventure comedy.
Nice. And this is not your first time watching it?
No, I watched it when it first came out. This is probably the second time.
Nice.
Watching it through.
Have to add that to the list.
It's a good one. And it's geek friendly.
There you go.
They get
better.
Yeah, as they talk all about the fun geek stuff that we talk about week to week.
Nice. I think Zach Levy was in some like random obscure YouTube series I watched years ago called Video Game High School. He had I want to say it was him, had some like really obscure like small role, which was hilarious. Which if you've never seen Video Game High School, I recommend it. It's pretty funny.
I've heard it. I don't think I've seen it though. No. It is funny to see him on it, like really thin, little geeky guy in the beginning, and to see what he is now, like very dashing and like well built and such now, but like he was just a thin, geeky guy, perfect choice for that role. And then, as the seasons progress, he's like more and more like getting built up, and then now he's Shazam. Well, he's Captain Marvel in Shazam, but it's crazy, the transformation.
Yeah, it's insane how they like literally the physical transformation for those superhero movies. It's not fair. Yes, but hey, thank you for letting us know what Mick's currently watching. That's sweet. I'll have to check out Chuck. We're working our way through Community, my wife and I. So
nice.
We're gonna need another show after this one. So
great show. And I think if you like Community, you'll definitely like this. There's a lot of parallels.
Nice. Yeah.
Nice.
Loving Community. That show's hysterical.
And they even show up. Like Chevy Chase plays the bad guy on the show. Abed comes on the show for a little bit. Like, because they're both NBC shows and they're on at the same time.
Ah, nice.
It's pretty
Abed. Fun. What a character. But yeah, thanks again for coming on. We really appreciate it. Why don't you go ahead and plug your channel again one more time before we get out of here? And yeah, thanks. This has been really fun.
I appreciate you guys having me, and we'd love to have you on the show anytime you guys want to come on. You just let us know, and we'll get you on. But yeah, I appreciate it. It's the scenesnobs.com. Go check it out. All our shows and all our links are on there. All podcast platforms, the links are on there. The videos. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts if you can. And you can follow me on social media at the Scene Snob.
Amazing. Listen to this man. He is wise beyond his years.
I don't know about all
that. Yes. After you're done checking out the scenesnobs.com, if you are not following us on social media, please check out our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're at Showboys Podcast. We also have a YouTube channel that we upload all of our audio too. We're currently working on, breaking into the video side of podcasting, and hopefully be doing some live streaming here soon ourselves. In the meantime, like Mick said, please subscribe, follow us. It's all free, and it really helps us out, helps us grow. Share our stuff with your friends, and if you need help finding any of our links, you can find them at linktr.ee/showboyspodcast. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Cue the music. Discord's a funny thing.
It's a fickle gal she is.